And more news of federal layoffs continue to roll in, this time the Department of Health and Human Services, which Trump ally Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was confirmed to lead earlier. According to an internal memo obtained by the Washington Post, the department is in the process of firing 5,200 health workers. The Associated Press confirmed the news, citing a recording of a staff meeting. The news comes just hours after the AP reported that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which is housed within HHS, will lose about 10% of its employees following a Trump administration order to fire all hires still in their probationary periods. That amounts to about 1,300 employees. Folks, there were nurses at the VA let go. Well, a lot of people don't realize all these people losing their jobs, and if you give a shit about your veterans that are in VA hospitals right now. Excuse me just a second. I'm sorry, it's been an emotional time. Nurses have a 2-year probational limit. They have to work 2 years before they are regarded as being permanent federal employees. So on Friday, we lost a lot of nurses that had 18 months experience at the VA. 18 months of experience is a lot of experience for a nurse. And the veterans, well, they were just left hanging, of course. And I'm sure that staffs are being stretched to their absolute limit, and I am sure that care will suffer, despite what you hear from the Trump lackeys at the VA right now. I ran across this also from Senator Patty Murray of Washington. And this is another thing that I think people are not understanding. She wrote on X, Trump is indiscriminately firing workers at the Hanford nuclear cleanup site. For Elon and Doge, who have no concept of what these workers do, trying to run Hanford with a skeleton crew is a recipe for disaster that can have irreversible impacts. What else does this mean? Things that will eventually come down the pike. It's a scary time to be a scientist, or so they say. This is a Guardian article from today. And the person saying that works for the National Institute of Health. And I don't know what to tell you, folks. What do you think is going to happen when you cut all these people? This is what one of them said. It's a scary time to be a scientist in the United States. And NIH sibling agency, the National Science Foundation, focuses on scientific and engineering research to scrutinize projects that include words like women, disability, and underrepresented. All of a sudden, he said, we're working in a world where we're not sure we're going to be allowed to say what the data clearly shows. On Monday, the day the new policy was supposed to take effect, the Association of American Medical Colleges sued to hold it. Even at larger, well-resourced institutions, this unlawful action will impose enormous harms, including on these institutions' ability to contribute to the medical and scientific breakthroughs, said the statement from the association, which represents several of U.S. medical schools that host maternal health centers. They continued, smaller institutions will fare even worse, faced with more unrecoverable costs on every dollar of grants funds received. Many will not be able to sustain any research and could close entirely. A federal judge ordered Trump to suspend the cuts, writing in a court order that implementing them would cause immediate and irreparable injury. A hearing is set for the 21st of February. However, it is unclear whether Trump will obey. Although, and this is really where we're coming down to here, although the administration is legally required to heed court orders, a federal judge ruled in another case this week that Trump had defied an order to hold a separate fees and federal funding. Disregarding court orders may tee up a showdown between executive and judicial branches of the government and a constitutional crisis. I don't know. It's just bad, folks. It's just bad. We're working with agencies across 20 Michigan counties that have more than 7 million people in them to be able to improve science so that moms don't get sick and die, said Dr. Jennifer E. Johnson, a Michigan State University public health professor who helps run one of the research centers in Flint. To do that, we need offices, we need electricity, we need lights, heat, IT, infrastructure, people to create and sell the contracts. All the support for that would be cut dramatically. They're going to lower it to 15%. They're going to get 15% support from the federal government under the Trump plan. Normally, Johnson said the National Institute of Health reimburses about 57% of the indirect costs for Michigan State's grants, including hers. It's not feasible, she said, for the university to cover those costs on its own or for her center to lower its indirect costs substantially. This is going to hurt medical research across a broad spectrum of medical disciplines in this country. I mean, hurt, I guess, is putting it mildly. Stanford University officials have said that the school, whose center aims to reduce the risk of dangerous postpartum hemorrhages, would take a $160 million loss. The University of Utah, which studies how drug addiction impacts pregnancy, would lose $45 million. Think about it. I mean, it's not just waste and fraud. There's always been waste and fraud in government. I worked in it for 24 years. I saw it. But what good the federal workforce does, and that's why I'm harping on scientists and medical researchers, far, far outweighs. If you want to talk about waste and abuse, I work for defense contracts. Let me tell you about waste and abuse, okay? But nobody ever really gets a decent audit of the Department of Defense. They lose money. They lose hundreds of millions of dollars. It slips through their fingers, and nothing's ever been done about it because it's the Department of Defense. Well, when it comes to things like your health, women's health, maternal and infant health, every dime gets scrutinized. That's the way it always has been, but now it's going to get far worse. And it's not just that. What's going to happen when the bird flu eventually goes from human to human? We're going to talk about that when we get back from a break. Just take that all in and just think about, for a second, just give a thought to these scientists, to these researchers who have dedicated their lives to making sure that the American people are healthier. Oh, we'll talk about getting healthier, all right, in just a minute. get bonus points if you know what movie that came from. Imagine wandering through the halls of the Outlook Hotel. That should give you a clue. It's spooky. It's meant to be spooky. Spooky things are going on. That's from The Shining. And that's from Al Baldwin, who was a very famous singer back in the 30s. Midnight? Stars? No. I shouldn't get a copyright strike on that. That's from like 1932. Anyway, back here on From the Bomb Shelter. And the bomb shelter is a little chilly today. I forgot to bring the heater in here, so got a little cup of tea I'm trying to keep warm with. So we were talking before the break about the federal agencies that are now being eviscerated and what that means for you, the average American. Now, you may be aware that bird flu marches on, even though the Trump administration doesn't want you to know about it. We now have transmission between cats that are indoor cats and people. Then you're wondering, how the hell can you get bird flu from an indoor cat? Well, apparently what's happening is there's two vectors for this. One, if the cats get to the door, let's say you have, like we do here at my house, we have bird feeders outside the door near the tree. We have a giant oak tree. And there are bird feeders there. And of course that draws birds. Duh. The virus is airborne, and when the birds poop, when the wind carries it, it can carry it under your door, especially if it's drafty. If your cats hang out near the door, they can pick up the virus and spread that to you. Most of the time, the poor kitties just die, which is a tragedy in itself. We have 3 cats and their family. The other way, the other vector, is you bring it in from that same outdoor area on your shoes. Cats pick it up, cats give it to you. I'm not a virologist. I don't understand exactly how it all happens, but that's what we're being told. And there was a bulletin that was put out by the government that appeared for maybe half an hour before it was yanked by the Trump administration, talking about how this is happening. They don't want you to know. We're getting very, very close, folks. And it's only a matter of time before we have a bird flu outbreak that sweeps from person to person, human to human transmission. We're getting there. Now, you all know, I don't spend a lot of time going over an in-depth look at every little thing that's going on, because there's simply too much going on for me to sit here and ponderously go through when I think about this particular piece of news or that particular piece of news about Trump or Doge. What I'm trying to do is pick out the things that are going to bite us in the ass the worst. It's basically news triage, let's say. So what we have here is Doge, of course, getting Elon Musk's paws into all this information. And we know that thousands of people were laid off from health agencies Friday. We talked about that. What does that mean? Scott Corey, the former chief of information for an agency within the Department of Health and Human Services, said the potential for doing harm is significant. This is in The Guardian. Health agencies maintain tightly controlled databases with sensitive information, and upheaval at these agencies threaten the U.S. healthcare system, even as the threat of infectious diseases like bird flu continues to ramp up. And you thought COVID was a problem. 1.1 million Americans within a 3-year span died of COVID-19. If the bird flu gets hold in our current circumstances, you're talking 10 million. And again, I'm kind of pulling that number out of my ass, yeah. But bird flu has something like a 40% fatality rate, whereas COVID had like a 4 or 5%, something like that. Bird flu is deadly. Most people who get it are going to be incapacitated. You thought long COVID was bad? Whew. This is a quote from an employee at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in The Guardian. The possibility of new outbreaks or public health events is certain given the recent concerning spread of bird flu, which is still hampered by a slow response. With external communications cut off, extensive work stop orders, and dramatic changes in the federal workforce, the ability of any health agency is severely limited and ultimately will serve no one but those who choose to profit off all the suffering, the employee said. 5,200 people across health agencies, layoff notice on Friday. 1,250 of them worked at the CDC. Literally, I could scream at the stupidity. One could tear one's hair out at the screaming stupidity of what is going on right now. And it's putting all of you at risk. A CDC employee said, in my whole time in the federal government, I've never seen this. It's a complete upheaval. So you've got a double whammy. You've got efforts to track the flu, and then you've got other efforts to research infectious diseases are both being hampered right now. I don't know what to... Again, I keep saying I'm not sure what to tell you, folks. Other than the fact that you are on your own. Every one of us, you, me, the cat, we're all on our own. And I don't see things getting any better. In fact, I continue to see them getting worse. So you have to protect yourself. All right. So what do I mean by that? The other thing that I haven't talked about yet, which you may or may not be aware of, is when this administration goes after migrants who are in this country without papers. You can say illegally, whatever. I don't care. But here's what's really happening. Food is rotting. Produce is rotting in California fields because the folks are simply, who pick these crops that Americans won't, are too scared to go to work. Georgia, being hit by the recent hurricane, needs more money from the federal government, and they've just been denied. That's going to hurt Georgia agriculture severely. Not just peaches, peanuts, whatever. Georgia is an agricultural giant in their own way. Around the country, basically, you are seeing food rotting, crops rotting. Again, we had the situation with the U.S. Agency for International Development, which was buying millions and millions and millions of dollars of U.S. grain to distribute to the world. Now that grain is rotting in silos. What is going to happen sooner than later, and you're already seeing it. Of course, you're seeing it with eggs. And the eggs, the biggest problem with eggs, obviously, is the bird flu and the culling of millions and millions and millions of laying hens. Okay? So that's why your eggs are $10 a dozen right now. And it's only going to go up. This isn't going away. Eggs are the canary in the coal mine right now. Other foodstuffs are going to start becoming scarce, especially produce. Things like green beans. Things like, I don't know, corn, carrots, lettuce. The things the migrants pick out in the fields of California in the Imperial Valley. These are the things that you are not, when if you see them in the stores, they're going to triple and quadruple in price. That's what capitalism's all about, booby. Supply and demand. And when the supply is down and the demand is there, the prices go up. And they're going to go up. You think you're paying a lot for groceries now, just wait. So, of course, I have some advice. Let me just stop and say, but the first people who are probably the best prepared for what's about to happen are the Mormon populations in Utah, because prepping is a way of life with those folks. You ever see a Mormon pantry? Oh, man. There's enough food to keep an army fed for a year in a lot of their pantries. They're ready for anything. Folks, you're going to have to start taking a page from the Mormon Housewives book of prepping for food. I've been doing this for quite some time. And so let me tell you some of the things that I have been buying and hoarding that you might consider doing for yourself. First of all, get yourself some shelving. You're going to need it. As you're going to need a lot. Couple things. Well, more than a couple things, actually. We'll say, well, okay, canned vegetables are an obvious one. Canned meat is an obvious one, although canned meat's getting pretty pricey. There's a company called Augustin that specializes. You can buy this stuff from them directly or from Amazon, whatever other places, that specializes in powdered stuff. They bread and roll mix, things like that. They do sell powdered eggs. A 36-ounce can of those is now $55. I bought a few before the price went up. So you're looking at things that you would normally consider to be, what's the word I'm looking for? They spoil. Okay? Things like milk. But there's powdered milk. And powdered milk right now is still fairly cheap. I would get some powdered milk. I would also get condiments, salt, pepper, things like that. Salt you need, and make sure it's iodized because you need it. But a lot of the powdered stuff, powdered eggs, powdered milk, sugar, flour, just think about it. What are the things, look around your kitchen, what are the things that you use on a regular basis? What are the things you need to cook? Now you're thinking, okay, what about proteins? What about meats? What about that sort of thing? If you can, my suggestion to you is to basically spend the money on a good freezer, a stand freezer, one that opens at the top. Get thee to Costco or Sam's Club or wherever you need to, and start stocking up on chicken and pork, because there's still, pork especially, still relatively inexpensive. We don't know how long that's going to last. You also get frozen vegetables. If you can afford it, steak. I was at my Costco and I loaded up the other day, about a week ago. Steak is out of sight. I mean, just incredibly expensive. So that's out for us. We had steak yesterday, Valentine's Day dinner. My wife made it. And it was a very special occasion. And that's what we have, very special occasions for steak. Things like cheap hot dogs. Okay, you can freeze those. By the way, you can freeze eggs. A lot of people don't know this, but you can freeze eggs too. But you can get a good stand freezer for about $200. An extra $50 to have it delivered. I have mine in my garage. Some of them now come with locks. You can have a key and lock them. uh, you never know, folks. I've got a garage door. I've got a lock. I don't use the lock, though. Not yet, at any rate. Uh, Fruits. You can get like frozen cranberries, frozen strawberries, all that sort of thing. Again, you're only limited by your own imagination, but there are a lot of survival foods that you can get from the manufacturers, from Amazon, things like that. I don't know about the ones that advertise on talk radio. I just have a bad feeling about those guys. So, you pays your dimes, you takes your chances with some of those. But again, beef jerky. It's great if it comes down to it as an appetite suppressant. And it's full of the good stuff. Although I have been told it's basically garbage, I still think breakfast cereal, fortified breakfast cereal, and especially things like frosted mini wheats are excellent source of vitamins. Um, Also helps to keep you regular. Get whole wheat. Get whole grain cereals. You can buy those as well. Now you don't have to get everything at once. Who can afford that? I know I live in the real world too. This has taken me literally years to get my pantry stocked. But start with those things that you know you're going to need. Here's the other thing that you should be thinking about is medical supplies. And I'm not just talking about things like ibuprofen, which if you use it, again, there are places where you can buy like Aleve and ibuprofen off-brand in bulk. Okay? But there's also, if you look on online sellers, you'll also be able to find medic kits. What do I mean by that? Well, they look like bug out bags, and they're about cubes. Oh, I would say they're about 18 inches by 18 inches by 18 inches. And what they are full of is pretty much everything you need for a medical emergency. And you can find them, like I said, I hate to keep plugging Amazon because business is so evil. But so many of us really don't have much of a choice. You can find them, they're about $150. Literally, in an emergency, you can do surgery with these kits. They have scalpels, they have suture. I would get a book, and there are several books that you can get on field expedient medical care, again, from your favorite bookseller. You might want to think about it just in case. You never know. Nursing textbooks are available. You can buy them online. All kinds of medical resources are available online for the layman. But you might want to get one of these kits, but stock up on things like gauze. Okay? Athletic tape is always good. Prosthetics. If you know you need art supports, weigh in for some of those. Knee pads. That kind of thing. Think about what you need. Ace bandages, things of that nature. I've got a long list here. I don't want to go through all of them. I just want to give you a general idea. Another big thing, folks, and I can't stress this enough. Buy masks. Start getting your N95 mask. Okay? Every paycheck, just get another box. Trust me, you'll thank me later. But stock up on masks. Cleaning supplies, Clorox wipes, things of that nature. Again, think about all of that stuff. And start now. And if nothing happens, at the very least, you'll have it just in case. There's always a problem with, there's always a chance of natural disasters. You could get hit by a blizzard, summer storm, tornadoes, whatever. If you're out in the West Coast or some other places, earthquakes. It's always good to have these things on hand and handy. Because the worst thing is not having them when you need them. Okay? We're going to take a break, and I'm going to come back and talk a little bit more about health. What I'm going to talk about is this presidential executive order establishing the president's Make America Healthy Again Commission. That just came out 2 days ago. And I want to point out two specific parts of this executive action that I think people need to pay attention to. All right? We'll be back with more. Take a break. All right, back here on From the Bomb Shelter with Keith. Just want to mention again that Katie is taking time off to recuperate. Uh, they've been, her family has been hit by the flu and hit rather hard. And so we're wishing her the best and hopefully have her back again next week. 2 days ago, the White House released an executive order establishing the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission. And of course, we understand that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now the Secretary of HHS. And there are definite time bombs and bombshells and things that are in this otherwise innocuously sounding document that are basically freaking people out, and I don't blame them. A lot of it is aimed at children. One of which, Kennedy was also, of course, the person who said that he wanted to send people on select serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, which are anti-depression drugs, to camps, healthy camps, you know, the ones they sent people who were a little funny in the head in, you know, to get a lot of fresh air. I don't know. I keep saying this is absolutely nuts. But here's a few things that I should point out. One of the recommendations of this, of what will be the mission of the commission that the president is setting up, and it says right here, and I'm quoting directly, assess the prevalence of and threat posed by the prescription of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, stimulants, and weight loss drugs. Now, what does this mean if you read between the lines? Well, suppose that Mr. Kennedy, who already thinks that people on antipsychotics and SSRIs are somehow school shooters, or more prevalent of being school shooters, or who need fresh air and sunshine of work camps or whatever. Suppose he decides to take your SSRIs, your Lexapro, Celexa, whatever else that you may be taking, and move them to Schedule II narcotics. That's a controlled substance that comes under the purview of the DEA. And like a lot of other controlled substances, the DEA has been scaring the crap out of doctors for some time, nosing around their prescription pads, making sure that not too many people are actually feeling better, because America is not about feeling better. America is actually about suffering, because suffering is noble in the eyes of God and man. Besides, you're probably just faking it anyway. And we're paying money to coddle you, which is what a lot of these people think. We're paying all this money for your stupid meds when you really just need a couple good slaps in the face. Suck it up, buttercup. Again, these are people who have no idea about the nature of mental illness. None whatsoever. And they don't care. They see mental illness as a failing. They see it as a moral failing. There are those who see mental illness as a curse from God, because you did something bad in your life. So now you are being visited with mental illness. My mother was one of these people. All right. The other thing they're talking about in this, and again, people are freaking out about this online. I failed to mention this. There was a report that I could not substantiate that the pharmacy at Wegmans, the supermarket chain here in the eastern part of the United States, mostly New York State, Buffalo area, Erie, has sent notices to those who are getting these particular medications and saying these are being put on hold. Now, again, I have no reason to doubt the people posting about this. There was more than one person basically saying, yeah, Wegman sent me an email about the same thing. But they're freaking out. Now, here's the reason why. It's not just because their conditions are treatable and they're getting treated and they're able to function in the real world, which is getting harder by the day, but you cannot simply cut these medications off, because people will go through withdrawals that in many cases could kill them. On this hit list are benzos, okay, Ativan, which is what I take, okay? I'll be honest with you. All kinds, Klonopin, all of those. And those are controlled substances, okay? And they may get harder to get, but they may be cut off at some point if Crazy Kennedy has his way. And the withdrawal from benzos can kill you. You think the Trump administration and HHS Secretary Kennedy give a damn whether it kills you or not? I don't think so. There's a lot of people who make it through the day on these medications. They go to work. They provide for their families. Their productivity helps the economy. There's more. Having said that, There's a laundry list of health conditions that this document goes over. And one of the things that it singles out is ADD, ADHD. And I'll read this part. And this is a direct quote. These health burdens have continued to increase alongside the increased prescription of medication. For example, in the case of attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, over 3.4 million children are now on medication for the disorder, up from 3.2 million in 2019-2020, and the number of children being diagnosed with the condition continues to rise. Now here's the crux. This poses a direct threat to the American people and our way of life. That's directly taken from the document. Your child having ADD, ADHD poses a dire threat to the American people and our way of life. Next sentence. 77% of young adults do not qualify for the military based in large part on their health scores. Wow, why would they be so concerned about that? Maybe it's because they're going to need more cannon fodder to attack Greenland and Canada and Mexico and Panama. 90%, I'm going back to the document, 90% of the nation's $4.5 trillion in annual healthcare expenditures is for people with chronic and mental health conditions. In short, Americans of all ages are becoming sicker, beset by illnesses that our medical system is not addressing effectively. These trends harm us, our economy, and our security. Read between the lines, folks. Your children on ADHD drugs or ADD drugs are a national security risk. What kind of tender mercies do you think this administration is going to subject your children to? The mind reels. It's just... My son has autism. My youngest son, he's an adult now. And I may or may not have mentioned that he is dependent on Medicaid. He also has a host of other medications. Had we been Germans in the 30s, he would have been basically euthanized. Now you're saying, oh, come on, Keith. Come on. That's never going to happen in this country. The words I have read lay the foundation for it. Lay the justification for it. Now I'm going to go read it again. You can read this. It's at whitehouse.gov. It's the only federal website that's working perfectly. I know. Read it for yourself. And think about it. Ponder the meaning of these words. I don't see good things coming here about this. I really don't. I see medication being either restricted so severely that your doctor has to basically submit reams and reams of documentation for you to get it, or being taken off the schedules entirely, or being even Schedule 1, which is what they still have marijuana as, of no medical value. What can I tell you, folks? So, having said all that, how can you sleep at night? How the hell do I sleep at night with all of this? Well, I have some ideas on that. I'll be back with those in just a minute. Right, back here on From the Bomb Shelter. Oh, you get plus 10 if you know what movie that came from. Oh, my heavens. If you're a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000 OG, you recognize that as part of the extraneous music from the movie The Creeping Terror, which came out in 1965. And I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to get any uh, copyright strikes for that one either. It's one of those. It's one of those schlocky movies that's so bad it's good, and it has this particular theme that runs through it, and that's part of the dance music. It really is a funny movie if you ever see it. It is so bad it's hilarious. And it was on Mystery Science Theater 3000. So I'm trying to find incidental music like that I won't get copyright strikes for. That's so old or so obscure that I shouldn't have to worry about it. But back to the issue. How do we sleep? Because I tell you what, folks, this week's been pretty difficult, and I've been literally hitting the hay at 7 p.m. And I really wish it wasn't true, but it is. I work, I come home, I eat, try and watch some TV, rapidly get tired, and land up going to bed at 7 o'clock. And I sleep straight through the night, get up at 5 a.m., and I feel still so damn tired that I land up, what can I say? And it's just a bad cycle. And I'm not the only one, and I know a lot of you folks are probably suffering from sleep problems with all that's going on right now. Because a lot of the times when we go to sleep, we're so busy, and our mind is busy throughout the day. A lot of us, go to work, have to concentrate on work tasks, or you're with your kids during the day, and you have to concentrate on that. And when you go to bed at night, all of a sudden, all that stuff is gone, and you're left with yourself and your brain. And so the things that you haven't processed, you start processing in the middle of the night, or when you're trying to go to sleep. And that's where you get this sort of stream that goes on, like one of like a ticker at the bottom of CNN or some news channel, some ticker that goes, it's constantly through your brain. What are you thinking about now? Now you get a chance to worry. And so you lie in bed and you worry about stuff. You start thinking about things that you did not think of during the day, but you picked up. You listen to the news. Oh, okay. Got to go back to work. But at night, there you are, lying in your bed, trying to figure out what's going on. Now, there are some things that can help. One thing, of course, we always start off with is drugs. Good old drugs. Drugs are not the best way to get some sleep, but they're sometimes the only way that a lot of people can really manage to get to sleep. Maybe not stay asleep, but get to sleep. Benzos, which I mentioned before, are often prescribed to people that have trouble getting to sleep, but they should not be, and certainly not, a long-term solution because of their addiction. Things like Ambien, okay, often prescribed. Not so much anymore, but still prescribed for people to get to sleep. Again, Ambien can be habit forming. And you'll find out after a while you may not be able to get to sleep without it. They sell what I call sleepy juice, which is that stuff NyQuil, Z-Quil. Okay, you've probably seen it on your drugstore shelves. It's basically the thing that they took. They basically extracted the thing that makes you tired in NyQuil and took that and made it its own liquid formula. So the problem with that is again, you get dependent on it. Also, it's not something you should have around if you have kids. Is the kids are going to see this from TikTok, they think, I'm going to get high on this stuff. It'll knock their ass out. And you don't want that. Nobody wants kids getting high on cough syrup. That's been a thing since Christ was a child, okay? They'll find the beer that you've hidden away in the freezer, or in the freezer, the beer. You know what I mean. Kids raid the liquor cabinet and they raid the medicine cabinet and see what they can get high on. So you want to be careful with having some of this stuff in. But if you need them, talk to your doctor. But yeah, I take a Klonopin at night. I take my sleepy juice. And I have to literally bombard myself with stuff. I'd rather not. But if I don't get a good night's sleep, I am useless the next day. It is a death march through the day to keep my concentration. But outside of drugs, what are some of the things that you can do or not do? Well, another thing I like to have is a body pillow. Now, if you've never had one before, they're not that expensive. They're basically about as tall as you are. Sometimes they're a little taller. And, I'd say they're about 14, 16, 18 inches in diameter. And it's a pillow that's basically shaped like a giant sausage. And you may find that being able to hug that pillow at night and give you a greater sense of ease to falling asleep. Some people basically crush their pillow every night, which I do. There's a lot of things you can do with a body pillow that make yourself more comfortable at night. And I recommend, I mean, if you haven't tried one, I recommend them. There are also other types of pillows that you can buy that will also help you fall asleep better, depending on your personal sleeping patterns. People fall asleep in all kinds of different positions. Some people fall asleep in the fetal position. Some people fall asleep on their back. I don't understand how people do that, but some people are side sleepers. Some people sleep on their stomach. It depends on basically your own personal preference. There are also blankets. Now, if you have a nervous condition, if you suffer from anxiety like I do, there are things like they're called weighted blankets. And what are they? Basically, they're blankets that have buckshots sewn into them, for lack of a better term. Metal pellets that weigh it down. And these blankets, they're moderately expensive, but you can get a good deal here and there. How do they work? Well, a weighted blanket on top of you, and again, there's science behind this. Having that weight on top of you, rather than freak you out, actually makes you feel a whole lot more comforted. It's like a giant embrace of sorts. So you have your weighted blanket, you have your body pillow, you have your other pillows, you have a mountain of pillows, you have your stuffed animals, whatever you need. Nobody's going to know except you and your spouse or significant other. Do not deny yourself something that may help you get to sleep. Okay, so we've gone over those things. Weighted blanket. Give it a try. If you have an anxiety condition, I don't use mine anymore, but I still have it in case I have a particularly bad evening or something, or I need it again. Automatic blankets or heated blankets. Okay, that's another thing. You have to be really careful with these, though. Okay. Um, my cat makes me nervous because my cat loves my heated blanket. So the cat will come and start sinking its claws into that thing, which is full of electrical elements that get warm and carry electricity. And it's like, no, keep the kitty off your electric blanket. If you make it too hot, now again, don't ask me about the science or the medical thing behind this. It can actually hurt you. You want to find that sweet spot where it makes you feel more comfortable at night to have a little bit of extra warmth. Now, some people who are not in the weighted blanket category, who do not like piling blanket on top of blanket on top of blanket, because that feels restrictive to them. So what they do is they get one blanket that has the electrical elements in it, find a sweet spot of heat, and that helps people go to bed at night. Another thing, you want your bedroom to be as dark as possible. So if you have windows, most people do, invest in good blackout curtains and shut out that light. You really want it to be as dark as possible. That will help you sleep. It's proven in studies. I don't need to get into it anymore. Try and get the darkest. We've got a little night light in the bathroom off the bedroom. We've got a little, ensuite bedroom, because sometimes you're going to get up in the middle of the night. You got to pee, whatever. Have a little night light in there. But try and keep your bedroom as dark as possible. Now the big one. Cell phones in bed. Yes, I am a big offender there, but I have a good reason. First of all, why do they tell you not to have your cell phone in bed? Well, because you're looking at that light, and your eyes are staring at that light, and your eyes are dilating at that light, dilating. And when you finally turn the damn box off, you're still you're still influenced by that light. Your body thinks it's still roughly daylight, and it takes a long time to come down from that for your body to get used to the dark, your eyes, and everything else. Also, you're thinking about what you've been stimulating your brain with whatever you're watching on that, okay? And if you're watching the news, you're just killing yourself. At some point, turn it off. You've got to be able. We've talked about this, Katie and I, on the show. You've got to. The best thing to do is kill the news at least half an hour before you go to bed. So, there's that. There's some people who say don't ever have a television in your bedroom. Keep the TVs out of the bedroom. The bedroom is for sleep. Nothing else. Well, sleep, sex, whatever. But sleep. Your bedroom should be constructed for you to get a good night's sleep. So, stay away from the news. Stay away from the light. Take what you need to get to sleep. Get the blankets and pillows that you need to make yourself as comfortable as possible. Those are all good things. Now, you're probably wondering then, why do I have a cell phone? I actually have a cell phone, a holder, which is attached to my headboard, which peers over the top of me like a vulture. You remember those old Snoopy cartoons where Snoopy played a vulture? That's what this thing looks like. But there's a reason for this. All right, folks. There's this thing called ASMR. I had a cheat sheet. I don't know what the hell I did with it. ASMR cheat sheet. Anyway. Have you ever... I'm going to take this out now. Have you ever listened to something, whether it was a voice or a noise, and gave you the tingles in your head. You know what I'm talking about. If you've ever had this happen to you, most people have. Whatever it is, some people, this kind of a thing. Okay? All kinds of noises, all kinds of voices. ASMR is the mechanism behind that relaxing tingle that you get. It usually starts from the back of your head, down your shoulders and back. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here's how to find it if you can get this. Take a very sharp pencil, okay, and basically stroke your head and neck with it very lightly. And think of something pleasurable. If you get the tingle, then you got the tingle. If you don't get the tingle, you don't get the tingle. But a lot of people find voices, music, other noises like crinkled paper or scratching, or even, I hate to even say this because it sounds weird, and I guess it is, mouth noises like that kind of thing. There's a whole subset of ASMR people who have that particular need. So you're asking, what kind of ASMR does Keith listen to try and get him to sleep at night? Okay. A lot. Let me give you, for those of you who are of a certain age, if you're talking about voices, you might remember Liberace. Liberace was a piano player and an impresario, and he had this voice that women swooned over. But there were women who wrote Liberace who said, "Your voice, sir, helps me to go to sleep at night." And it was true. It did. It had that effect on people, you know? And a lot of women would write him and say, "I am a big fan of yours." I mean, he had a ton. I mean, you have no idea how huge this guy was. He was Polish, too. And he would play a lot of Chopin. Chopin? Well, Chopin is nice to listen to as well. Anytime now. So, this is what I go to sleep with sometimes when I feel like some Chopin. These are nocturnes. Nocturne in B flat major, opus 9, number 1. And Liberace would play these. And he would introduce them. "I'm going to play some Chopin for you." And he would play this. And women would go, "Ah, how beautiful." But listen to the music and see if you don't agree. This is beautiful music to fall asleep to. Very calming. In fact, I'm getting tired right now. I'm also half Polish, so this is part of my ancestry. And I listen to, there's this a collection, I have 10 nocturnes on this particular YouTube video, which of course, now you're wondering how do I just have this blasting out loud from my phone? No. I have these, how do I describe this? It's a sleep mask that has Bluetooth in it, okay? It has two little speakers where your ears are supposed to be. And you play it on your phone, it goes into the speakers, it shuts out the light, and it plays whatever you want to hear. You could also answer the phone with the damn thing. The worst thing that happen is I'm trying to get to sleep, and someone calls me. Sit straight up in bed while I'm trying to listen to Chopin. You can, by the way, if you want to, you can also get. There are Liberace shows that are available on YouTube if you want to try him. So you're thinking, okay, fine, Liberace. Who else, genius? Well, think of a voice maybe that you know or that you've heard of that you have that sort of, same feeling with. Do I have an example? Oh, I sure do.
With an old 2-inch brush and go right into a small amount of alizarin crimson. Just a small amount, and just tap it into the bristles. And just going to come here and there using little crisscross strokes. The canvas is already covered with the liquid white, so it's all wet and slick and it's ready. There, just here and there. Just here and there. Now this won't be an exact duplicate of the little painting that you see at the beginning of each show in this series, but it'll show you how
There's
it
a
was
lot of
made.
people, folks, who listen to Bob Ross of The Joy of Painting, and they just melt. Yes, I admit, there are nights I go to sleep listening to Bob Ross talk about painting, and I am not ashamed of it, because it works. It works. He has one of those, like Liberace, he has one of those 1 in a million voices. Okay? But there are others. I'm going to play some more, and you're going to think I am the weirdest guy you have ever heard on a podcast. But all of these work. Now, let's see. What are some of my favorites? Oh, yes, this one.
Hello, Gita. I'm Diana. Would like to introduce some Alexander principles to you. So would you show me how you would just sit down and stand up? Just in your way. All right. And then standing up. Mm-hmm. And are you at the computer quite a lot?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Over 8 hours a day.
8 hours a day. Okay. And you're studying
Law.
Okay, then, so you.
I'm a sucker for English
for you.
accents when it comes
Not
to
much reflection
ASMR.
on perhaps how you're sitting.
And this is a lady who's giving
Just getting
another
in and doing
woman
it, perhaps. Getting what you have to
instructions
do.
on
That's correct.
All right.
proper
just
posture
stand in
when
front of
getting
the
up
chair,
and
yeah.
down from a chair. Now, what makes this relaxing is not only her tone of voice, but also the whole idea of getting personal instruction. Have you ever felt, for instance, when you go for an eye appointment, have you ever felt strangely calm during the exam? Does the whole idea, I mean, of course, when you're going for a colostomy, it's a different thing entirely, for an upper GI. But okay, but if you're going for something that's nice and non-invasive, like an eye appointment, and you're being told, what's better, 1 or 2, 2 or 3, 3 or 4, whatever. Have you ever found that strangely calming, relaxing? Well, a lot of people in the ASMR community find that also to be very relaxing, and there are all kinds of, a lot of them doctor role-playing, things of that nature, and I know you're thinking, my God, this is so weird, but it works for people. It really works. And that's another thing that you can do. But I am a sucker for English accents. I'll be perfectly honest. There's one here. I'm just going over my giant long list of female accents. This woman is absolutely famous for her particular videos. Take a listen.
Hello, this is Emma. Thank you for popping in. We're joined today by these beautiful crystal ladies. They're going to help me to make this video. So I hope that's okay with you. As you can see from the title of this video, I'd like to calm you down from any anxiety you might be feeling right now. You might be feeling tension or the scared feeling.
Oh, yes.
I
yes.
get that a lot.
Yes, yes.
That runs down my back and sometimes tightens my chest.
We all do.
You may be feeling excited or nervous.
I know Katie has got to be listening to this going, has Keith gone off the deep end?
You may
But
feel
think about it. This woman has a
aching
beautiful voice,
sensation
right? And
here.
what she's going to do
That's
is
what I
play
feel,
these
yeah.
giant ceramic bowls. Have you ever heard them? This is what they sound like. These are relaxing too. Okay, you get an idea. With the caveat that this does not work for everybody, but it works for a lot of people. Whether it's music, whether it's singing bowls, whether it's... What's the other one? Thunder, surf, you know, the sounds of surf, the sounds of thunder. We call those are sound baths. Here's an idea of some sound baths. Again, these are done with singing bowls, things of that nature. But sometimes you can just listen to sounds of surf, sounds of thunder, you know, things of that nature. Also help. So I think I've given you kind of an idea of what a lot of the relaxation you get from ASMR. Now there's also the stuff that goes really off to the right, which has, how would I call it? Prurient connotations. There are some people who do sexually themed ASMR. That's not what I'm into. No. Just want to let my wife know I am not into that. But it all depends on what you're into. What kind of voices, what kind of noises, what kind of music. Like I said, Chopin's always a good one for me. I hope you get into it. So don't knock it till you tried it, is what I would say. You'll find all kinds of like instructional videos that might work for you. It's just basically your own imagination, you know? So I give it a try. And that's one good thing. But of course, turn your light on your phone off. And get these, I should mention, these sleep masks with the Bluetooth in them. They're only about $15. And you'd be amazed how well the sound comes through from your phone. Again, if you want to sleep to Beethoven, but try it. Give it a try. It shuts out the light. There's two things. It shuts out the light, and it plays something that might relax you. And that's really all we're talking about here, is whatever it takes to go to sleep. If you get up in the middle of the night, you can always start it again. You have to go to the bathroom, you come back down, just, again, turn it back on. Again, it's music. It's all kinds of things. It's anything that makes you feel more relaxed. And I really, it helped me at some of the worst points in my life when I could not sleep and all the other drugs I was taking and everything else. It just, what can I tell you? It worked for me. Maybe it worked for you. Maybe you think I'm weird. That's fine. I can live with that. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. Because right now, I don't know about you, but a lot of us are having a hell of a time trying to get to sleep. So, anyway, with that, we'll end the show. Next week, hopefully, we will have Katie with us. I'm sure we will. And I hope you got something out of all that. I really do. News you can use, things that we can do from the bomb shelter to kind of help you get along in the world with all the bad news that's going on right now. Remember, we're all in this together. And how? This is Keith from the bomb shelter. Have a good week. I will do my own little thing during the week if I, as news warrants. Take care, everyone. Take care of each other. Oh, I should have mentioned. Just go on YouTube and Google ASMR. You'll get all the videos that you ever could want. And just decide which ones you like. Oh, and that one English woman with the singing bowls, that's Whispers Red. In case you want to look her up. Whispers Red ASMR. Alright, have a good one.